Hello, guys. Long time no see. Um, this format is a little bit weird per se, but I thought I should bring you a new deck profile simply because I have not been posting many and I've been mainly focusing on other content before. But but now I'm a little bit more into Yu-Gi-Oh again, and I want to bring some deck profile. A branded Dogmatica deck profile has been very requested, but I'll have to say, sadly, that we are in the second tier zero format in the last for the last 2 years, and there is only one real other deck that I want to cover that can compete in this format without without risking not being able to perform at a tournament simply because you're playing a bad deck. And the deck I want to cover is Voiceless, a new ritual deck that just came out. And I want to talk about my personal take. But before that, I want to announce that I am now a member of the Team Azrael. And if you want to check those out, I'll be having a lot of my more meta content rather on Team Azrael. So, like, if I top anything with like Voiceless or something, I will be talking about it on that channel. The link will be in the description. And also, I want to shout out the vendor Fantasy Freak for providing me with a good pre-sale deal on this deck. And anyways, so let's get into this. So this is not just normal Voiceless. As you see, there's a Mirror Jade here. And it has a very good reason, simply because it is Voiceless branded. I'm going to talk about it when we get to the actual package of it. But for now, let's go over the engine. The engine for Voiceless Voice has only been out for a very short time, but it is very standardized. 2 Skull Guardian, 2 Soravis. Sometimes you would wish to play 3, simply because sometimes you play against a weird-ass runic Snake Eyes deck, and if one of the rituals gets banished, your grind game becomes very weird. But otherwise, you really want to play 2 and 2 because ritual monsters are not the most ideal thing to draw, even if Soravis is an anti-hand trap. And probably Soravis is one of the main reasons why this deck is very viable, simply because its effect in hand is already very great against the selection of hand traps that are being played. And we are in not only a tier 0 format, but in a hand trap format. And a hand trap format where people are even playing like stuff like Ghost Mourner. And in a format where Ghost Mourner exists and like Veiler exists, having targeting protection for your plays in your turn is pretty damn crucial. And the effect on field is excellent to play against Voiceless, against the Snake Eyes deck, simply because you can like stop them from getting into Linkaribo or stop them from getting into SP by negating the summon of Linkaribo or SP and banishing it, so they never have access to a Linkaribo again, unless they play 2, which would be meta shift. But usually they play like 1 to 2 SP, 2 Linkaribo, and like 1 Princess. And all of those cards are excellent targets for Soravis to negate the summon and banish. This card cannot negate stuff like Branded Fusion. It can only negate like inherent summons like Diabellstar, or like a Link summon, Ritual summon, not Ritual summon, Fusion's not even a Fusion summon, unless it's like a Contact Fusion. And it cannot negate like monster special summon from the hand by pitching for cost or something. Anyways, those are the ritual monsters. Not very many. Triple Low, Triple Saphira. You have to know that this card can be built. And these 2 cards are the main reason why I am going to be playing the branded package. But I'll get to it. Anyways, this card is your 1-card combo, your bread and butter. If you cannot get access to this, you're in a bad spot. So you try to get access to it as much as possible. And this card is just generally pretty damn cracked because it is a searcher and a ritual spell at the same time, which is kind of novel for ritual decks. And it is a monster that is a ritual spell, so this deck can inherently play around anti-spell as the second ritual deck of its type after Megalith. Then we got one more monster, Old Man Saravas. This guy is mainly there to be summoned off of the trap. He's not the best draw, but you really want to play him simply because he gives you easy access to the other Saravas, the ritual one. And he can sometimes stop your opponent from being able to get your board state to a state where you don't have a Skull Guardian plus low. And also, this guy, when he summons like Saravas or Skull Guardian from hand or deck, the summoning of the Skull Guardian will trigger low in graveyard. So that is quite important. Then we play triple barrier. And also we play triple pre-prep. Pre-prep is insane, but also at the same time, this is the card that will hurt you the most if you get drolled. Simply because this can mean that if this card gets drolled and you don't have a ready low in hand, you are screwed. But otherwise, this card is insane. And also, this card can search Saravas due to the ritual spell here, mentioning Saravas, as well as Skull Guardian. That's quite important. That's why this card has way too much text. Also, this effect, the second effect on the ritual spell, the one in graveyard where when your ritual monster gets removed, you get to special summon a ritual monster from your deck by banishing this card from your graveyard. This is the way you play around Super Poly, and you try to play around Super Poly every time because some people still have not understood that Super Poly is pretty mediocre in the format, even though it can be used. Anyways, this is for the ritual spells. Then the best card in the deck, and at the same time worst card in the deck. This card is all your skill expression with Voiceless. Voiceless is, as I would put it, Dragoon Turbo if this card did not exist. If this card did not exist, you would just summon Skull Guardian, which is equivalent to Red Eyes Dark Dragoon, and you would pass, and you just carpet bomb your opponent with hand traps. But with this card, you actually have a couple plays on your opponent's turn, like summoning the main deck Saravas, the Old Man, or if you really are in a pinch, you can use this card to destroy 1 to 2 monsters, usually. It destroys as many monsters as there are ritual monsters on your field. Cards, not monsters. But this card is your entire skill expression, and the main thing you want is to set this up as fast as possible, sometimes even more important than barrier itself, and keeping this up as much as possible without using the destruction effect. If you use the destruction effect, you better have game next turn, otherwise your grind game is absolutely screwed. Then we're playing Triple Diviner and Trias Hierarchia. Diviner in itself is also full combo simply because she summons low from deck by sending Trias and Trias tributing her to trigger a second effect. But because we play the branded package, this card is also kind of a board breaker. So if you draw Branded Fusion and Diviner of the Herald, what you do is you always shotgun Branded Fusion. If your opponent has Ash, then you traded 1-for-1 for a hand trap and you still have full combo because unless they imperm those, there is not much that can stop Diviner. And what you can do with Branded Fusion is you have three really good send targets. One of those is Trias Hierarchia, Low, and then Saphira. Depending on your board stay, you want to send one of those. Sometimes you also send like any other light monster if you already have the setup for everything and still want engine in your deck. But anyways, you send like Trias Hierarchia if you play into a board. Your opponent will probably imperm the Albion that you're going to summon off of this. If not, you go Albion, Lubellion, Mirror Jade, so that you shuffle back this one Fallen of Albos, so that you got Grind Game. Because you're probably going to get access to a second Branded Fusion in this line. And anyways, your goal is to send Trios or to send Lo or Saphira. You send Trios if you have Diviner, then your normal Diviner, and send an Entos or an Arclight if you need an Arclight. And then you can, if your opponent like tries to hand trap the Arclight, the Diviner, or like to negate it because they have to trade 1-for-1 into the board, you just Trios the Herald, and you get your low summon out of your deck, which is very convenient. And all in all, I think this engine, the Branded Fusion engine, is what separates the normal Voiceless deck from this, because the normal Voiceless deck has like only like 2 ways to deal with an established board. The one way is build SP as fast as possible, which is very hard in this deck without like super infringing on your board. And the second one is battle phase 4100 beat stick, run over something, and then negate the floating effect. But if you have Branded Fusion, you get access to Mirror Jade in a 1 card, or 1.5 cards if you want your grind game. And you get your Grave halfway set up, so this card is a full combo in itself, a separate full combo, and also an extender for the other combo, for the mainline combo. So that is quite huge. But we don't want to commit much more into the branded line at all. So we now get to the actual non-engine of the deck. The most important non-engine is Triple Nibiru. The main reason is this hand trap is also usable as tribute fodder because it is a light level 7+ monster. And therefore you can tribute it with a ritual spell. If you open like pre-prep plus nib, you can still play. Otherwise, we're playing Triple Ash, Triple Bell, Triple Imperm, and 1 Called By for the 41st card. If you want to cut this, feel free, but we're in a hand trap format, and Called By is a very significant 1-for-1 trade. And if you can keep it without getting hand trapped, or if you only get impermed, which your deck can deal with pretty well, you just Called By the Flamberge Dragon if you can. And then your opponent is in a really bad position. But otherwise, you need to play like at least 12 hand traps. Playing 15 is a little bit much, which would be the actual normal ratio of the deck. But simply adding Branded Fusion just gives your deck so much more ceiling. And in testing at locals, I only played 2 locals so far. But every single time I saw Branded Fusion, the card was absolutely game-winning. Like no card in the deck has as much impact as Branded Fusion itself, even though it makes your hands sometimes awkward simply because you kind of want to discard for Lubellion, but at the same time you don't, because discarding bad, I guess. Anyways, now for the extra deck. We're playing 2 Mirror Jade, 1 Lubellion because I only have 1, and 2 Albion. Ideally, you want to play 2/2/2, simply so that you have maximum versatility. And then you would also play at least 1 DD Crow in your main deck, so that you have a dark monster that you can send. DD Crow is still quite good hand trap in this format. And if you have a dark monster in your deck, you just send it with the 2nd or 3rd Branded Fusion to summon the Lubellion. The Lubellion just shuffles 1 Mirror Jade back to get the other, because ideally your Mirror Jade would have been outed. And then you have like a full self-sufficient grind engine with branded, because you always draw one card per turn unless you like somehow get hand looped or something happens. And therefore, you always have like at the start of your turn, if you resolve Albion, Albion's graveyard effect, you always have a branded fusion, either set or in the hand, and you will have a Mirror Jade in your graveyard or on field. And you will have one card in your hand, so you could technically permagrind, because Lubellion shuffles your Albaz back, and that is how you could technically achieve permagrind with the branded fusion engine. 2 Elder Entity Entus. You could cut one. Technically, only one is needed, but I'm playing 2 simply because I don't own Typhon, so the second one would have been a Typhon. Garura. What is very, 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 very important in this deck, do not play Super Poly. If you play Super Poly with your deck is absolutely trash. The main reason is if you want to play Super Poly, you would also play Mud Dragon of the Swamp. And what happens is currently the Snake Eye decks are siding Bestials. And if you get Bestialed, so let's say you open like low and branded fusion. Here, wait, let me find it quickly. I'm a little bit blind here. Here it is. Low branded fusion and whatever. The worst thing that can happen is you branded fusion, then you summon yourself your Albion by sending your Saphira, and you send your Albaz to the graveyard. So this is your current graveyard right now with branded fusion. Then Albion activates its effect, and your opponent will be compelled to Bestial the Fallen of Albaz. Now you have a light fairy in hand and a light dragon in graveyard. So what could happen now if you play Mud Dragon of the Swamp is that you are now forced to banish both this and this to summon Mud Dragon, and that automatically neg-1s you with your hand, and therefore you might just lose the duel to one Bestial simply because you decided to play Super Poly. So do not, under any circumstance, play Mud Dragon of the Swamp in your deck. If you want to play Super Poly, I guess, but Super Polying only for Garura is pretty damn trash. But you really cannot play Mud Dragon of the Swamp in this deck, simply due to this interaction, and because Bestials are kind of sided right now. Anyways, the other parts of the extra deck: 1 Bucephalos the second, 2 Dynamondo, and in my case, 1 Sky Striker Ace Azalea, because I do not see why I should pay $100 to play a staple that might get reprinted. If you have the money to buy an SP Little Knight, this is definitely an SP Little Knight. But if you don't, you can play either this or you can play a Relinquished Anima, but nobody's going to play into Relinquished Anima anyways. And this, for the rest, 1 Herald of the Arclight, 1 is enough. 1 Malong, and you either play Chaos Angel, or in my case, Baron de Fleur, because I do not have a Chaos Angel. The reason why you play Baron de Fleur is if you're turbo bricked, like let's say you opened like 2 Ash, Nip, and I don't know, Ritual Spell, and I don't know, Fallen of Albaz, and that is like your hand. What you can do is, and you like top deck, let's say Saravis here. Let's draw Sauravis for turn. What you technically have an option for is you can like Voiceless, Tribute, Special, and then normal summon one of your Ash Blossoms, and then you can go into Baron. This is very, 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 very situational, but having this option already won me like 2 games. Otherwise, you would just play like Chaos Angel. If you draw one, if you pull one out of your OTS pack, just play the Chaos Angel. It's probably better, simply because Chaos Angel also has some kind of board removal effect and is probably more utility than playing a Baron that you can only summon by normal summoning a hand trap. Otherwise, this would be the extra deck. For the side deck, I'm not going to spoil everything, but what is definitely in the side deck is triple Ultimate Slayer. As you have seen with the side deck, I have all the targets for Ultimate Slayer except for a XYZ monster. And I would also suggest playing Cosmic Cyclone. I think those two cards are like the 2 best cards you can side right now. Cosmic Cyclone simply for utility in a lot of matchups, and this is even good against the Snake Eyes deck because you can get rid of the Link monster that is in the spell trap zone that would be summoned off of Flamberge. And Ultimate Slayer is just pure value. It is like Upstart Goblin, plus you get to remove an interaction off of the opponent. Specifically, you get to remove Appaloosa and draw one, which is nuts. Like, outing Appaloosa for free? Sign me up. Otherwise, the side deck is mostly still in works. But this would be the deck. If you want to see more meta content, I would suggest looking at Team Azrael. And if you want to see more of my ritual insanity, you can come here. I will try to look at doing something with Branded and Dogmatica. But for now, I'm going to be mainly testing Voiceless itself because Voiceless seems like a very, very... It is a very low-skill deck to play. It is very comfortable to play at locals. And therefore, I like suggest if you don't want to super involve yourself into this format, definitely pick up Voiceless. It's rather cheap if you don't play SP Little Knight. Like rather cheap as in you don't have to play a $1,000 deck, and you can still compete against the Snake Eye deck, which is great. Like this deck has a pretty damn good matchup into the Snake Eyes deck at the cost of having like a mediocre or hand trap dependent matchup into Branded, which is like the 3rd best deck right now. But in general, like the deck is very solid. If you don't misplay, you should win most of your games simply by having like a good control play style. Like this deck is 99% a control deck. It's not really a combo deck. You just do the same thing over and over again and just sit on your School Guardian until you like win. And also what makes this deck pretty good is that all of the cards in from Voiceless trade very well into hand traps, like Barrier. If your opponent ashes Barrier, you still have Barrier for next turn unless they out it. If your low gets impermed, you could still activate Barrier from your hand. If you eat droll on your search, you usually still can play halfways, even though your board just basically becomes a Skull Guardian pass. But still, like Skull Guardian plays very well into a state where your opponent has like 4 cards in hand because they hand trapped you twice. And if you can still like bring them out with your low on field, you usually win the game, simply because your opponent has to commit so many cards into even dealing damage to you that your Skull Guardian just basically carries it by sitting until it has to negate like an interaction that would remove it. And even then, sometimes the ritual spell can just like help you out. And also, this deck is very good into Nib. even if you use the Brand Fusion line. Yeah, that's all I would say about the deck. I think it is a pretty damn solid deck, even though it doesn't have the power of Snake Eyes. It still is rather consistent. It plays good into hand traps, which is this format, and it is very simple to play, so it's harder to misplay with this deck, which are three very, very valid points when picking up Voiceless. Anyways, I hope you guys have a nice day, and I hope this deck will bring you a little bit more joy to the format. Anyways, see ya.